Hello and welcome to a video. I think I'm going to make this just a quick episode of Making It Work. It's a little different than what I usually do, so maybe it'll just be a standalone video. Not 100% sure yet. I've got an old laptop here, which is a bit different than my usual stuff, but I thought I would throw on the camera and just record the process and see if I can get it working. So the backstory behind this one, I was at my favorite junk store recently and found this literally sitting outside, like on a pile of old, I think it was like old coveralls or something. And I went ahead and grabbed it. And keeping an eye out for an old XP machine, because for whatever reason, the old virtual machines I used to use don't really work anymore, especially for reading physical media. So I've been making it a point to keep an eye out for an old laptop with an optical drive that will run XP, and that way I can run a lot of older stuff, because for those of you who don't know, XP has a ton of backwards compatibility with other Windows, so it can run 95 and 98 stuff really well, so an XP machine is fantastic for running old hardware. Anyway, when I came across this one, like I say, it was sitting outside, so it's in pretty rough shape, but the things that jumped out to me are that it does have its battery. I think right here, this is the battery unit. It's got an old modular design. And then here, as you can see, it's been fitted with a DVD drive. That made it a pretty great score for what I was looking to do. A lot of times, you know, if it's an old company laptop, those are things that they'll strip out. So even if you find cheap old laptops, a lot of times they're missing those parts. But this one had both, and I got it for $10. So I'm going to see if we can make it work. Now, just to show you what happens, I did get it to boot up in a sense, using a aftermarket, like, universal laptop charger. And the battery seems to actually take a charge, which is impressive. Let me tilt the screen so see if y'all can see this. Yes, basically the smart drive is detecting imminent failure. And the fans make it sound like it wants to take off. So we're going to replace the hard drive, and while I'm inside, maybe just do a little bit of housekeeping. The battery pops out like that, and this was like one of those old business models, so it was intended to have these very hot swappable little battery packs. Since I think when this was being sold, a normal battery expectancy for one of those was like 2 hours, I want to say. I think this may be the hard drive. It may actually just pop out. I'm trying to tell, there's a release system here, but I think similar to this may release this DVD drive. This one may be the hard drive. While I'm doing that, I should warn folks, if you're not familiar, I am not really like a vintage computer guy. There are much more knowledgeable people than me out there for that stuff. Some kind of like a slot under here. And actually I thought that was a disk drive symbol, but looking closer at it, I thought it was a disk drive symbol with a down arrow, but I think that is actually a hard disk symbol. I think I maybe do need to remove this screw. Yeah, that door was just a little stuck, which is always a tricky thing with old plastic. Figuring out if it's just a little stuck or if you're gonna break it. Alright, that is the hard drive there. Okay, this was actually pretty decent drive for its time. This was 60 gigabytes. I'll zoom in so if anyone more clever than me is curious about this thing. And here I've just got a replacement drive. I think this should be able to fit in there. And for anyone who doesn't know, if you see my weird glove and wacky hand shaking around, that's just that's the had to concentrate for a second, but the shaky hand is the result of a stroke that I had. So that is expected. Nothing wacky going on. Oh, I see. There's like a couple of very small little nuts here that you're supposed to remove. Okay, so that takes off this little frame thing. Okay, so it looks like I thought I did my homework to get the right type of hard disk for this. But it looks like this is an IDE drive versus the SATA connection I have on this replacement drive. I'm back with the XP machine after taking it apart, getting ready to swap out the hard drive, and then because I haven't worked on a computer, much less an old computer in so long, I totally forgot that IDE drives were a thing. So what I have ordered in the meantime is this guy, which basically converts a compact flash card into an IDE hard drive. I believe that 16 gigs is going to be plenty for this machine, but it'll be very quick and easy to expand it if I decide I need more storage on this machine. I can get 32 gig cards are pretty cheap too. You can get really big ones, but it starts to get expensive, and I just really don't foresee needing a ton of storage on this thing. But anyhow, 16 gigs should be enough to install Windows XP at least, so we can get the base machine up and running and go from there. Okay, and now I'm getting a non-system disk or disk error screen. Since there's nothing on that hard drive, flash memory I should say, I think that is what we would expect to see. So it looks like I may actually have to create a CD-ROM, because there wasn't actually a USB boot option in the BIOS. So I'm going to make that, and report back on how that works. Alright, it's a few days later, and sitting back down with the XP machine, what I've done is rather than keep trying to figure out a way to use some sort of solid state memory in this old thing, I just went ahead and got an old IDE hard drive. That seemed like the best option since this was about the same price as the compact flash and adapter that I had bought earlier and tried out initially. If I was planning on using this thing on the road or using it a bunch and wanted high performance, it might be worth trying to keep at it, but this thing will mostly stay in my little studio and be used to run a few legacy applications, so nothing really super demanding that I need something higher performance for, so it just didn't seem worth the extra effort. So anyway, we're going to get this guy installed, and then hopefully we should be good to install XP, and that will do it. This thing should be back up and running. Alright, so here's the hard drive. This is I forgot what size. 60 gig. So this will also be significantly more storage than the compact flash card. But again, on this computer, I don't really need a lot of storage either way. So here's its funky little caddy. I'm gonna move this out of the way, actually. Alright, I believe that's the way it goes on. Let me install this little adapter thingy. And it's been a while, but I think you're supposed to jumper. Not sure what made that noise. It's very weird. But yeah, I believe we jumper that top one here to set this as the primary drive. And I can't remember if you actually have to do that if you're only using one drive, but I'll just go ahead and do it to be safe. So if memory serves, there's flat and cap head screws that hold this little caddy on. I think the flat ones have to go in the front. Why they didn't just make them all flat if they needed to be for clearances beyond me. I probably saved like 5 cents a unit or something. Alright, here we go. But my shaky hand is really going today. The last thing we put in are these weird little pin things. Next, we're just gonna reinstall this guy. Install the screw, just more than anything else, as a way to make sure it's actually in there all the way.
3 weeks later.
Okay, now that I'm putting the screws in the right places, it is working much better. Alright. Now the tricky part, I'm going to try to find an angle y'all can see what I see. That's good. The battery was holding a charge for a few days. That's funny. I actually can't really read the screen, so I'm using using my camera preview to follow along with the prompts. Alright. Setup is loading files. I'm trying to remember exactly when it was crashing out before, but so far so good.
One eternity later.
Okay, setup is starting Windows. Set up Windows XP now, hit enter. I will agree. I think this is F8. Alright, I'm going to tilt the screen back up so I can read it, but the takeaway is that did the trick, and I won't make y'all sit here and watch me install Windows XP. If you've ever done it, it is not a very fun or quick, I shouldn't say fun, it is not a very exciting or quick experience, especially if you're using a CD-ROM to install things on an old hard disk. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut here and be back with the finished product. Setup is done and it worked out pretty well. Move this over here. Alright, so you can see we've got our pretty classic desktop. I've also got a low battery. Apparently the universal laptop charger I was using is what kept blowing my breakers. So I'm just running it on battery power. Before I close out, I'm just going to test it real quick with Storybook Weaver, which is my legacy programs I have trouble getting to run on pretty much anything else. Never was any good at using the little joystick mouse thing. Okay, well, everything seems to be working as expected. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut this thing down so I can charge it. Yeah, I think that is good enough to call this one fixed. It should be working well now. I can run some old applications on it, and hopefully run some old hardware. I can't recall if I mentioned this yet or not. In fact, this thing has a serial port still. It's exciting because I have some old Polaroid hardware that uses a serial connection, but I haven't had any luck running on virtual machines, and I'm hoping I can get it working with this thing. So stay tuned to see if I can get that stuff set up. I'll post about it on Instagram or maybe make another little video. But anyway, if you made it all the way to the end, thanks so much for watching, and the usual reminders to like, subscribe, and all that definitely helps out a bunch as I'm trying to grow the channel. So it's very appreciated, and a big thanks to everyone who's already done that. I think with that, we'll wrap this one up, and I will see you all in the next one.